Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm delving into a request from an inspiring Pilates instructor who wants to leave her corporate job and come into the Pilates industry. She's not quite sure whether this is the right move to make. So I've had the privilege of working with Pilates instructors from all walks of life, but I also understand what the intricacies are of coming into the industry from a corporate job. So transitioning from something that's completely different to Pilates into actually becoming a teacher, and also identifying whether you are going to make a lucrative business out of it. And if you're not interested into making it into a business, would a career in Pilates be a sustainable step to make? Now, before we dive in, I just want to share with you that I offer a number of resources for Pilates teachers and also those who are interested in becoming a Pilates teacher. Through my Pilates Business Academy, I offer business coaching and I help people who are already in the industry. So if you are interested in more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because you're going to be learning more skills and more tools on how to run your Pilates business. And if you're not quite a teacher and you're wanting to come into the Pilates industry, the Pilates Teacher Training Program is a comprehensive program that's going to help you turn your dreams of becoming a teacher into reality. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Anita Horry. I'm second generation Pilates teacher, teacher trainer, and of course, also a business coach for those of you who want to make the world a better place. Now, let's talk about whether you can truly make a very good living out of teaching Pilates. I also want to share with you that every teacher's experience is different. So my experience over the past 20 years could be very different to the way that you may be experiencing Pilates. So bear that in mind, that obviously anybody's perspective on teaching Pilates, how they teach it, where they got their education is going to be different. And it's really important to make informed decisions before you subscribe into any kind of teacher training program. Now, whilst my perspective has shaped my journey, and it has been a very successful journey in the industry, you might know some other people, or maybe you yourself are experiencing people that have not had an incredible journey. But in saying that, there are some amazing positives of being a Pilates teacher, and yes, of course, having a lucrative income from the industry. So on that note, let's jump straight into knowing what the pros and cons are about becoming a Pilates teacher. Now, the first positive is obviously making people feel better. What a most amazing experience is that when you know that your job involves you helping others feel better in themselves, whether it is physically and mentally. It is incredibly fulfilling, and I've seen firsthand over the 2 decades that I've been in the industry, people who have come to the studio, started working with me, they're in excruciating pain, and then they leave their session being fulfilled, being out of pain, feeling the most amazing way that they've felt in themselves for a long time. And regardless of whether they're doing a group session or a private session, there's always benefit that comes out of a session of Pilates. So having this as an advantage of you being a Pilates teacher, knowing that every person you're going to come across, you're going to have a positive impact in their life. Now, if you're anything like me, before I delved into the Pilates industry, I had a very rigid job because I was in the corporate world. Now, not only was I working very, very long hours, but I was also expected to work out of hours. I was expected to work weekends, nights, whatever. There was always something that I had to do when I came home. Now, being a Pilates teacher, regardless of whether you're running your own studio or whether you are working in another studio, in a gym, in another environment, whatever that might be, that also means that you have a flexible schedule. So if you go and look for work in a specific studio or in a gym or a fitness facility, you know that if you're a morning person and you're going to be working better in the morning, you can just ask for hours in the morning. And there is such a huge demand for Pilates teachers at the moment in the industry. There's such a big growth in the Pilates industry right now that any studio would accept whatever terms you were asked for, because if you are a good teacher and if you had a really decent education, the studio would appreciate you. And I have teachers who are working for me in my studio that work specific times, and because I also appreciate they are mothers, they are parents, they have a family, and they can't work all hours of day, then I know that I'm going to work the schedule around them. And this is the most amazing thing, because if you have other commitments, you can work your job according to your schedule. So it's truly balancing your work and personal life balance. If you are currently in a corporate job, or you have a schedule where you have to work shifts, you are requested to be at work even when you are supposed to be off duty, you know the stresses and the pains and the physical and the emotional and the psychological pains that you have as an employee, or maybe even if you are running your own business and you are not in the industry, you can gonna see a huge difference in actually being in this industry, because it truly is about flexibility. It truly is about finding the right times that suit you, and then managing your personal life and your work life and having that harmonious relationship. And you can actually go home and switch off. You don't have to worry about your work. You don't have to worry about what you're going to be doing tomorrow. Yes, of course, if you have a specific Pilates education where you have been educated to maybe make class plans and prepare for your next sessions, you're going to spend some time in creating these sessions. But if you have a classical background, for example, in classical teaching, there's no class plans, because you truly are teaching the body in front of you. You have a mix of tools in your toolbox, and you're going to be using those specific techniques to teach anyone who comes in front of you on the day. And you know, the same client might have different issues on different days. So you don't need to plan the class, because at the end of the day, whatever you might have planned will go down by the wayside, because it won't be relevant to the way that your client is particularly feeling. And what does that ultimately do? That's going to create a lot more freedom in your personal life outside the studio hours. Now, the third huge benefit of being a Pilates teacher is that the pay can be very lucrative, especially if you use your skills to your advantage. Now, you don't have to just be a Pilates teacher in a studio or in a fitness center or online. You know, there are multiple streams of income that you can have nowadays, especially with the internet presence, with social media, with so many different platforms. You can generate a multiple stream of income. So here I want to share some typical examples of generating this income. The first example could be having your own home studio. So when I moved to a new country as a Pilates teacher, the first thing I did was open up a very small home-based studio. And I started this with less than $500 in my bank account. So yes, it is possible. From this particular studio, I grew my whole Pilates empire. And yes, having the business of my dreams started from this very small home-based studio where I was teaching only 2 people at a time. Now, if we had to look at some figures for a home-based studio, say for example, you are teaching 20 sessions a week, and you have maybe privates or semi-privates where you are teaching 2 people, and you are earning a total of $90 an hour. Now I'm being very, very modest here, okay, because you are only teaching 2 people. From that income, $90 an hour, you're going to be making $7,200 a month, converting to $86,000 a year just by working 20 hours a week. Now, while not everybody might not want to start with a home studio, this could be a very lucrative way of starting a home-based studio and earning a decent income while actually balancing your personal life and your work life. And the other big benefit out of this is that you are also working independently. You're at home, you have no one to report to, you don't have to worry about having to travel to work or going through crazy traffic. This is your home-based studio, and it's giving you a really decent start into entering that Pilates industry. Now, the other scenario would be that you're working in a studio. Now, if you're intending to work in a studio, there's going to be very different styles of teaching. You're obviously going to have to stick to the general policies of the studio. So you'd have to look at whether your certification is actually adequate for the studio that you're applying for. Now, with regards to certification programs, if you are a contemporary teacher and you're looking for work at a classical studio, that might be a little bit more difficult. Now, when I talk about contemporary and classical, if you want me to explain that a little bit more, please go ahead and send me a message, and I'll make sure that in the next videos, I'll include some more information about the difference between the two. But if you are a contemporary teacher, it would be much harder for you to find jobs in a classical studio. However, if you are a classical teacher, you have the ability and the options to work in any studio that is looking for work. So if you are able to teach a group class, if you can teach privates, groups, and you have the ability to think on your feet, earning income as an employee in a studio is also another way of a lucrative career in the industry. Now, if you're looking to teach for about 30 to 40 hours a week at a studio with an average rate of $40 an hour, you could make around $5,600 per month or $67,200 annually. Now, that's a decent income as an employee with no worries about business, with no worries about how to get your clients. This is income as you're earning from being an employee at a studio or at a fitness center. Now, group classes also offer a huge boost because many studios offer commissions on the number of people that come to your group sessions. So if you are able to pull more people into the sessions, you also get a commission on the extra people that come in. Or there are some different ways that studios pay. Some studios even pay you a commission on merchandise that you sell. So there's other additional incentives of working as a Pilates teacher in a studio environment. And the third scenario would be diversifying your income. Now, I've personally built multiple income streams from the knowledge and the skills that I've had of teaching Pilates. So my first business was actually teaching Pilates. I started with my home studio, and then I moved on to larger studios every time, and then started to employ my own team of people and recruiting my own staff. And then that went into teacher training. So after a decade of teaching Pilates, I took programs, I studied to become a teacher trainer, and then I also worked with some really influential people in the industry. Lolita San Miguel is one of them. She is a student of Joseph Pilates, and the late Bob Leekens from the classical repertoire, from the Romana lineage, was a personal mentor of mine, very close, and he was the one who has actually helped me create my teacher training program. So from the teacher training program, I also moved on to doing retreats. So as I was doing Pilates teaching, I'm doing teacher training and I'm doing retreats. Now, you don't have to be a Pilates teacher trainer to do retreats. You know, retreats could be an additional income. I did workshops, I did retreats, I did the teacher training. And then later on, as my profession grew and as my skills grew, I had my own retreat center. I built my own retreat center. And not only that, I didn't stop there. Then I've taken more courses to become a business coach. My early career, my corporate life was in accountancy. So I worked, I'm a chartered accountant, and I was, because now it's been so many years that I've been practicing as an accountant. But from that, I've actually moved on to use that skill to be able to help someone start a business, and become a zero to an absolute hero in running their own Pilates business. And I have a team of people now who help me support new teachers or teachers who want to have their own business. And then I help them with the marketing, with the functionality of their business, with operations, with running the equipment, knowing what equipment to buy. And of course, the most important financial aspects of running their Pilates studio. So that's how I diversified my own Pilates skills. But so many teachers diversify in offering online sessions. They have a membership program on online sessions and then doing a hybrid. Maybe they work in a studio and then offer online sessions. Some focused on merchandise, on selling merchandise. Others focused on giving multiple retreats a year. So there is so much more to do other than just teaching in a studio. Now, the fourth big advantage is career flexibility. Now, I've already touched on this point in the last topic that I've mentioned, but you know, there's so much more you can do with being a Pilates teacher. Being a Pilates teacher is not just teaching a series of exercises. This is not just about fitness. There are so many opportunities and so many different paths that you can take into exploring further opportunities in your career. Now, as I mentioned, you can open up your own studio, or you can start focusing on just teaching at retreats, or maybe you want to go and work on cruise liners and teach Pilates on a cruise liner. You want to travel the world and combine your passion of going around places, seeing new places, having new opportunities, and teaching Pilates. So there are so many different ways that you can incorporate your passion for movement and earning that income. Now, the other option that you can have, and this is something that I have also done in the past, is collaborate with other movement people to offer different services. So I have worked with different people, yoga teachers, massage therapists, physiotherapists, osteopaths, chiropractors, and we have together given a holistic service to our clients. So what have we done? We have started to really cross clients and offer services to each other's clients. And that was another way for us to be able to grow our own businesses, but yet still have the community of sharing our knowledge and helping other people in their wellness journey. And the fifth big advantage is your own personal growth. Now, I can tell you from my own experience, started okay, it was 2 decades ago, but I started first of all with absolutely no faith in myself as a Pilates teacher. And I'm going to be talking about that in the disadvantages in a second, but you know, having this entry to this world of fitness, this entry into this world of movement, where at first I thought it's just going to be teaching movement, teaching exercises. And then it really exploded into other paths that I didn't even think were possible. No, I never actually dreamed I'm going to be even opening my own retreat center. And I nowadays, I welcome different teachers from all over the world into my retreat center in Spain, and I share experiences, and they bring their own clients, and we're helping others in finding movement, in finding better health, and in exploring new countries and seeing new possibilities. So your own personal growth is going to be huge on this. You're going to be gaining a lot more confidence, and you're going to be gaining a lot more confidence also as an individual. You know, this is going to help you also on a personal note with finding a little bit more confidence in people skills, in public speaking. And that's where you're also going to be able to create a lot more, give more content, because you're never going to stop. For me, Pilates is my life. It's not my job, it's my life. I'm going to continue Pilates until the day I leave this earth. And I remember my teacher, Lolita, who today is 90 years old, saying that it is very much a way of life. It is very much with you until the day you die. And it's not really about passing your skills to other people, but it's also about really practicing what you preach. So having that own personal practice is helping me develop more, create a lot more for myself. And it's all coming organically. It's all coming because the universe is sending it to me. So be aware, be creative, and trust yourself, because this is the most amazing journey you're ever going to be on. Now, I don't want to make Pilates as being the be-all and end-all of our careers. And of course, I want to go through some perhaps negative points, or maybe things that we really need to make sure we're comfortable with before we actually delve into a career as a Pilates instructor. Now, the first point I want to mention as something that you really need to be aware of is that Pilates takes incredible focus. And from a teacher's perspective, you have to be very driven and very conscientious of what you're doing. We are, at the end of the day, responsible of somebody else's life. We're responsible for their well-being. So as a teacher, you can't take your job lightly, and you really need to make sure that you are present in class and you're looking out for your clients' well-being all the time. You can't look away, you can't be distracted. You have to be totally focused on what your clients are doing. So if you get easily distracted and you feel that perhaps you're not going to be able to manage a client well, or you're going to manage a class well, then perhaps you need to question yourself on whether or not this is the right path for you. If you can focus and you're able to really integrate your mind with what the client is doing, and all the time you have to focus on how they are moving. So it does take a lot of strain from you mentally when you are teaching, because you're forever looking out for imbalances in the body, and you're forever looking on how you are going to improve your client's performance or your client's movement practice. So you gotta pay attention to every little detail. So some instructors start out by teaching a few hours a week, and then they start building up their hours until they actually get their mental stamina and they're more comfortable with more hours and with more classes. And some instructors end up teaching 40, 50, 60 hours a week, sometimes even more than that. Now that is completely draining for you physically and mentally, and that's something that you should really avoid doing. If you don't want to burn out, you must manage your hours, and you must be very strict about it with yourself and also with your clients. Now, the key thing here is to find that sweet spot of hours of teaching to feel comfortable with what you've given for the day and what the demand for your sessions is, right? So what I'm suggesting here is that start by teaching a few hours a week, maybe 5 to 10 hours a week, and then slowly build up to find a level that you personally feel comfortable with. Now, don't compare yourself to any other teachers, because maybe you need your time, your breaks, and you need your time to recoup your energy. And then some other teacher is happy to teach all day straight through with no breaks, and they're happy to teach group classes back to back. Well, that might not be your journey. So look at your own personal situation, and it's absolutely okay for you to work less hours. Then what you need to do to be clever about it is to identify how much you should be charging, and especially if you are going to go into this as on a self-employed basis and you want to run your own Pilates studio and have your own business, and identify what is going to be the level of income that you're going to be needing to have a comfortable living and not having to work so many hours. The last thing you want to be doing is coming to a point where you're starting to dislike teaching and dislike going to work. Now, touching on burnout, this is the next point that I really want to focus on and hone in as far as disadvantages are concerned. Yes, I've been there. I've been there 3 times in my career. And 3 times it's been when my business took an exponential growth. But every time I did this, I had to go back to what made me fall in love with Pilates. So literally take a step back and identify, why did I even want to become a Pilates teacher? And when you start thinking about the reasons that brought you into the industry, the why, your reason of teaching, then you're going to understand why you shouldn't be teaching too much. You can't be the everything for everybody. So be aware that if you are an empath and if you can't say no, this could be a risk for you. Burnout is a real thing. I have published so many videos about this. And if you want to check this video over here, it talks a little bit more about burnout. And I find that this is one of the hardest things for Pilates teachers, especially ones who have such a passion for the method and who have such a passion to want to help others gain better lives, but then they'll end up not working out themselves, where they'll end up not having enough time for their own family, and they end up a lot more stressed and of course leading to burnout. So avoid this by going back to what you loved about the method. Make sure you have your own practice, make sure that you have your own teacher, and even if that might be 1 hour a week, make sure that that is going to help you recharge your batteries, and do other stuff that you love. Go and disconnect. Make sure that you have time in nature if that's what you love. Maybe start another hobby, maybe have another practice, maybe add yoga, whatever that might be. So make sure that you fill your cup first, and then you'll be able to serve others a lot more efficiently. Okay, so now for those of you who are maybe just starting in the Pilates industry, and maybe are a little bit like I was 20 years ago, where I had huge imposter syndrome. Huge. I couldn't think that I could pull off a class. There was no way. And the other thing is that at the very, very beginning, I actually started teaching in Spanish, which was not my first language. So the imposter syndrome kind of quadrupled. But guys, you know, it is true and it is real for everybody. Every single teacher is gonna go through this at some point in their life. So you might be planning each session like it's a big exam. And then when you forget something in the middle of the class, it feels like the world is going to end. I see that. I've been there. I've done that. I've felt, oh my God, I've forgotten this particular exercise, or oh, I've mixed up the order of the session. No big deal. Did anybody get injured? Did anybody get hurt? No. So be a little bit easy on yourself. None of us are perfect. Embrace that nervousness. That means that you have the excitement for the method and you have the excitement for teaching. Embrace it and learn from it. And know that in every single session that you're going to teach, your nervousness is just going to reduce every time. So with more experience, with more skill, it's going to dissipate. So if you're still watching the video, it means that you're really on the right path. You are eager to learn, you're eager to learn new skills, and you're eager to become the most amazing Pilates instructor you've ever known. So embrace this journey. This is the most amazing path that you're ever going to take. And remember that you don't have to do this alone. If you still haven't found the right teacher training program, I do recommend that you look at this set of videos over here, because you should be asking relevant questions to the teacher trainer that you're perhaps interested to work with. But what is super important at this stage in your life is that you identify how you want to be teaching, who you want to be teaching, and what form and style of Pilates really pulls to you, because that's going to make you the best teacher you can ever be. And if you are already in your Pilates teaching journey and perhaps are going through some of the experiences that I've just mentioned, then remember that every class you teach and every step you take is taking you and leading you to a better Pilates teacher. So keep moving, keep going, because the possibilities for you as a Pilates instructor are totally endless. So that's it, guys. Those are your advantages and disadvantages of being a Pilates teacher. And I hope that you understand that the advantages are far superior than those little niggly disadvantages that you might have as an instructor. And also remember that even though there might be the burnout, there might be the not knowing how to say no, there might be the imposter syndrome. These are all things that you can avoid. So if you have good planning and you go through a really decent teacher training program, you should be able to learn how to avoid situations like this. And if you have the right support system, you'll be able to subside any kind of negative feeling that you get as a Pilates teacher. I hope you liked the video, guys, and if you did like it, do hit the like and subscribe to my channel. And if you are interested to become a Pilates teacher, then I'd invite you to look at my teacher training programs. I'm going to post the link below. So we've got 3 different courses running this year. We've got one in Spain where you come and immerse yourself on the Costa Blanca, stay with us at our retreat finca, but also practice Pilates in a fully comprehensive Pilates studio close to the retreat finca. You'll be experiencing lots of sun and sea and lots of practice of Pilates. And that also includes accommodation. Then we're teaching in the USA and South Carolina in Somerville starting from April 2025. And for weekend modules, we are doing Malta. Malta starting in April 2025. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to turn this passion you have into a Pilates career, and it's a really lucrative career as well. That's all for today. Until my next video, goodbye for now.